Welcome to Escaping Purgatory, a podcast where we rewatch Supernatural, then talk it through in the hopes that we can finally escape this show.
Join us each week and leave comments on upcoming episodes, and together we can escape Supernatural Purgatory. Hello!
Hello. I don't know what that was. I don't know what it was. It was exciting to me.
Yeah. It was not. You can't say the same about this episode, though.
I feel like they tried to jazz it up with some like funny moments and some like fast camera work. And if they had done that, it would have been kind of like it's kind of like what they call it, a bottle episode, right? Where they're all just like stuck in a location.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like, everybody dies, so it's kind of a bummer.
This episode is the season 6 version of Abandon All Hope.
I thought exactly the same thing. They were like, these side characters are getting too close. Let's kill them.
But like, really, they weren't. Like, when was the last time we saw Rufus? Like, the beginning of the season?
Yeah, I think Rufus is the death that really sucks in this episode.
Yeah.
But like, because there's like actually no reason to kill him off. No. Whereas there is kind of like, I guess, plot reasons to kill off the Campbells.
But even still, like, I don't feel like, I know this is not much coming from me because I don't really remember what happens beyond this point. I will say this episode is burned in my brain for no reason. Like, this was another one I probably wouldn't have to even really watch apart from like to know the dialogue. Mm-hmm. But like the beats of the episode, I was like, oh yeah, no, I completely remember this, even though I've only seen it one time.
Yeah.
No idea why though. But like, I don't recall like with the sort of fallout from killing Samuel. The only person that really affects is Crowley. But like, we don't really care about Crowley at this point. So like, what does that do for the story to get rid of Samuel right now?
It's a good question. I don't remember either, which makes me think that nothing. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. I think they just ended his storyline and it didn't really go anywhere, and it's kind of never mentioned again. And there's even a reference to Mary in this episode where they're like, what do you think Mary would think of Samuel, like betraying her kids or whatever? And I think, that would have been a really cool talking point to bring up with her on screen.
But they never do.
They didn't. Yeah. I think that's that kind of sucks about this. I don't feel like it has any repercussions. No one angsts over it. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm wrong. But like, I don't feel like, I don't feel like anybody really cares about it afterwards. I don't really feel like it has any bearing on the plot. It's kind of like they wrote this character in and then weren't really sure what to do with him, so they just killed him off. And
yeah,
like the thing is, like we didn't need Samuel really, because Soulless Sam could have been working with Crowley by himself. That could have been a fine plot, right? That he's got no morals or whatever. So like, why not work with a demon for his own gain to get his soul back or some other purpose? Maybe it wasn't his soul, but like he could have ultimately found out that Crowley has his soul. And that's why he turns against him or whatever. I don't know. But like that could have been a whole plot point. I feel like the Campbells were almost extra to that.
It's almost like they had a plan for the Campbells, but for some reason it didn't pan out. So it just fizzled out instead.
I wonder if the actor like got cast on something else, and couldn't do the end of season 6. I'm not sure. But like,
maybe.
It's a thought, just because he does a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
And this death is kind of so sudden that it is a bit shocking. But like at the same time, it's like, oh yeah, fine. I mean, we're so used to Supernatural just killing people off kind of randomly, especially like side characters, that I think even by season 6, you're kind of like, oh, okay, they're not going to survive at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I really remember watching this for the first time and thinking Rufus was going to survive because he's only like very in and out. He's just a little extra humor into an episode.
Yeah. And like you know, we finally kind of get an explanation for Omaha and like why they had sort of fallen out. And it's just like, well, then why kill him off in this episode? Like there's no, the only reason why they did that is to hurt the audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like the conversation between him and Bobby, where, you know, Rufus still holds a grudge against him. Like, Bobby's not going to handle that well. None of them can handle, you know, emotional trauma well. Like it doesn't feel good. There's no reason for it not to, like there was no reason to hurt the audience in this way.
Yeah.
I say audience, I mean me, because I love Rufus.
I think I made this argument in Abandon All Hope that like it's a ramping up, right? Like we kill off a lot of characters to kind of signal how powerful the new big bad is. So
yeah, but you don't. I don't think that made sense in that episode because of you. We had, you know, 4 seasons. Oh, I think it was in season 4 that happened.
I can't remember, but yeah, maybe 5. I can't remember.
No, it wasn't. It was. I think it was season 4.
Okay, yeah.
But we had 3 and a bit seasons before that happened. Whereas the ramp up has been 15 episodes, and not every, like, we've only seen this mother of all mentioned in 15 minutes of one episode. Like, there is no build up.
But I partly think that's the problem. Like, they've introduced this character and they've said she's the big bad, but they haven't done anything to show it. So it's like, oh, how are we going to signal that she is the big bad that we've been making her out to be? Oh, yeah, let's just get her to kill off a bunch of characters.
But she doesn't do it.
But, like...
It's not her. Kind of. Like, yeah, she created a creature that... I guess that's the thing, right? It's the creation of a new creature that's supposed to be scary.
Yeah.
But it's a worm.
I
know. Like... What?
Yeah.
like nothing about this monster's concept is possession. That's all it is. So it's not anything really new. It's not, and like the episode doesn't really build tension in a way that like makes me afraid of this monster. It's just like, okay, like, so this creature sat in the ear of this truck driver for several miles and then killed people. Well, it stayed in Dean for like a second. Like, why
did it? Yeah, why
stay in Dean for a second? Why did it keep hopping at that point? It didn't make any sense.
I know. I don't know. I feel like there was another explanation for this creature because Bobby calls it a Khan worm, right? So Khan is a Star Trek reference for Khan Noonien Singh but like it didn't quite. I don't think it, like, I don't understand why they used that particular Star Trek reference. Like, Khan's a bad guy, like, but he's not got anything to do with worms. He's just like a bad dude from back in time. Like, but he comes on the ship and they do think he's a friend, and then he turns out not to be a friend. I guess maybe that's why, like, kind of like a betrayal thing. But I feel like there was some kind of follow up, you know, like. Because normally when they name something, they give like an explanation as to why they've named it that, right? But Bobby just blurts out like Khan worm, and they're like, oh, but you have to think about, is that a Star Trek reference? What is it referring to? Where was like the interjection to say like, oh, like this, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. I mean, if you kind of put it that way, it's like a creature that is infiltrating a group,
and
then kill. I kind of get that, but at the same time, it's just like, why would you not just call it like a parasite?
Yeah,
same thing.
They do like Star Trek reference and Supernatural, to be fair to them, but like, I thought there was an explanation missing as to why they called it that. Just like a short, like quippy one-liner from Dean or something, or Sam. Like they have done previously when they're naming stuff like Jefferson starships.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, this was not a good one for multiple reasons.
Yeah. We were so high last week, so high on life.
I know.
Or last time. And like, now I knew it would happen because I looked at this episode, I was like, this is but we're ramping up to Purgatory. We're going to get there soon, and we're nearly there. We're nearly there.
Yeah, we are nearly there.
We're getting some good episodes soon as well. Like, it's ramping up to something real good.
Mm-hmm. I'm okay. The other thing that I really don't like about this, sorry, I'm gonna bring it down. I'm sorry, is like, because this is a rewatch, we know that Eve doesn't continue into the next season. So like, she's being built up as this. Well, the thing is, she calls herself Eve, and I don't think she actually is Eve. She just sees herself as Eve.
Makes sense. Yeah.
They said that she was from 10,000 years ago, which is obviously, not quite right. Well, maybe, I don't know.
You're right. Yeah.
But like, like, she's built up as this thing that can create monsters, and then suddenly they like can just kill her.
Don't think about it too hard. I think this is one of the instances where I really do think they didn't know where they were going to go. And like, we're kind of rewriting it and rehashing it and like trying to figure out if they were going to have another season and stuff. And I think this is the problem with Supernatural kind of from this point, because Kripke had his 5-season arc where he kind of knew where it was going to kind of end up, even though it may have changed a little along the way. Mm-hmm. But from that point onwards, they never knew whether they're going to get picked up for another season. So I feel like you get to the point where you know you're going to be picked up and they're like, oh, now we have to write it like there's going to be another season.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because it would have been, again, I don't remember how the Leviathan play into this, but like, where is the connection between Eve and the Leviathan? Like,
because, Purgatory, I think, right, this is my remembering of it and it's probably wrong. I think they need Eve in some description or way to open the door to Purgatory, which they do. And then because they open it, the Leviathan get out. And it's all to do with the civil war in heaven, because basically there's 100 souls in Purgatory that the cast is going to eat to gain loads of power to win the civil war. So the two plots come together, and then that's how we end up with the Leviathan. I may have some details of that wrong.
it feels like it isn't like sort of pinging something in my brain. So yeah, but I don't know. It's just, I think you're right. I think it's just like, without the sort of foresight of writing for a bigger story, you end up with things like this episode where it just feels bizarre. Which, by the way, 15 minutes in, let me tell you what episode we're on. Is season 6, episode 16, and then There Were None, written by Brett Matthews. We've seen one of his episodes, kind of a few of his episodes. Yeah. And directed by Mike Roll. I just want to see what episodes. Okay.
Yeah. I mentioned it like slightly. I thought the camera work in this was real weird. It's real like juddery. Like there's a lot of like,
it's kind of hectic.
It's really hectic. I think there's a reason that it was chosen to be like that, to kind of ramp up a bit more of the tension, where maybe there was not a lot of tension sometimes in the actual like plot and dialogue. But it just made me feel a bit like, ew.
Yeah, no, I get that too. Because so originally I was watching it on, usually I watch Supernatural on my TV. Yeah. And just sort of like chill on my sofa. But today I was sort of watching it a little bit while I was working. So I had it on my other monitor. And I sit quite close to my monitors, but like I couldn't sit there and watch it because I generally don't get motion sick, but it was making me like, oh, okay, no, I need to go like sit back and see it bigger. Because it was too much.
I get so motion sick, man. I can't play first person games anymore. That's how motion sick I get. Like, I went on a child's fairground ride and was like losing my mind. And I used to go on like really bad roller coasters. What is it with aging and getting motion sick? I don't understand what's happening here.
I don't know, because I mean, that's I generally don't get motion sick, so I don't.
Terrible. I can't go on like a swing too fast.
That's too funny.
It's horrendous. Anyway, yeah.
So, I mean, I think we've pretty much covered basically all of the story beats of this episode.
Yeah, let's just say an episode. Fine, 20 minutes. No, then we'll do it.
Let's go through and relive this.
Pick it apart.
Yeah, I agree. So we get the recap, which is Rufus's introduction and a bit of Weekend at Bobby's. Mm-hmm. We loop back round to the Alpha plot with Samuel and Crowley. We also see Samuel's betrayal in Caged Heat and the argument that he had with Dean about like the next time I see you, you're gonna be dead kind of thing. I do love that entrance. Actually, that was one very good part of this episode.
Oh yes.
We also get the introduction of Gwen Campbell and then the opening of Purgatory and Eve rising out from there and saying, we have work to be done. Mm-hmm. So we're then in like a petrol station, gas station, whatever you want to call it. And there's a trucker who's filling up his truck or his semi. And he gets startled by Eve.
Yeah.
And he's like, making sure she's all right. And she just asks for a ride. They get into the truck and he's asking her like where she wants to go. And she says, as far as you want, clearly implying that like, at first I thought he was going to be like, serial killer trucker, one of those people. And so she like, kisses him, mm-hmm. and he pushes her off, which I was like really pleased about actually. And he hands her a pamphlet that says Jesus loves you, which I thought was really funny because I think we've said that like they don't touch Jesus.
Yeah, I did think this was quite surprising actually because they don't usually mention Jesus in Supernatural, but like I guess they wanted to do the role reversal of like the hitchhiker being the killer or whatever rather than the trucker, like. Mm-hmm. Kind of be subversive that way, but like I kind of felt sorry for this dude because he actually seemed like
a nice guy.
I know.
Yeah. And so Eve says, you do know that Jesus was just a man, and he responds, sure, but he was also the Son of God, sent here because he loves us. And then Eve, it's funny because Eve has the same mentality as the angels, really.
Yeah.
She says, God doesn't care about you. Your father made you and then he abandoned you, so you pray.
You see signs where there's nothing. But truth is, your apocalypse came and went, and you didn't even notice. A mother would never abandon her children like he did.
Which I guess is kind of interesting because maybe she monologues at some point mm-hmm. to find out why she was locked in purgatory, because technically if she created all the monsters, she did abandon her children. Or she was forced to abandon her children.
There's kind of... You said before that you don't think she's Eve. I think she is. In this universe, I think she is Eve. Because I think what kind of happened was like Chuck created life, right? But then got bored mm-hmm. with them. And she was real like pissed about that. So it somehow like corrupted her to like create monsters. And that's how I see her character. And you're right, I don't know if they ever actually fully explain like what occurred. Because it does gel with like Chuck just being like a massive try not to swear. Being a really poor father figure. Or just poor father generally.
So do you think, because obviously, I mean, maybe we do, maybe we don't. Well, no, okay, but then we end up with Cain mm-hmm. in the series.
Yeah.
So, like, What?
But it doesn't mean that Eve isn't still Eve. At what point did she like get corrupted and become the mother of monsters? Like, at what point in the timeline of humanity did she feel that God had discarded her? So, yeah, maybe.
And so, is Adam real, or is Adam just God? Like, is Adam just Chuck?
Oh, that's a good question.
Or is Adam another person?
That's a good question. Is Adam just a self-insert character? Maybe. Yeah.
Because I don't think we ever get an Adam, right? I can't remember.
I don't think so. But maybe Adam ended up in heaven because like he blamed Eve, right? You know, it was her fault.
Yeah.
She ate the apple. She tempted him. All that jazz. See, this could be so interesting, actually. Like the whole lore around God and like him just being a massive douche. So this is why all the bad things exist in this universe. And like they do kind of touch on it as like that is probably the case, but it's not fully explored, I feel.
Yeah, because by the time they get to the point where, you know, Chuck is God, all of this is forgotten.
Yeah.
And like I am looking forward to when we get to the Mark of Cain and all of that, because
me too.
Obviously there is no mention of Eve.
No.
But it would have been a nice callback to be like, haha, I killed your bum. Right?
I do wish they tied all this together and like into the lore, you know? Like, so we had like a complete set of what happened and when, and like I don't think it would take much. It would only be like a few little drop sentences in later seasons to like tie stuff together, and they don't bother.
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. And I mean, it would have, you know, even a reference to like Lilith as well would have been interesting, because in some versions out there, Lilith was first. Yeah. So.
And she's usually seen as like mother of monsters or whatever. So like interesting why. Okay. Because they'd already used her character name. That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, just a little bit of tie-in, like just a little bit. I feel like Buffy did it better. Like they seem to tie things into other things, and you kind of got a complete like world building. But I feel like with Supernatural, always in the dark. There's always places to like fill in the gaps with your own ideas, which is sometimes nice. Like I do kind of appreciate that sometimes, but sometimes it's just really frustrating. It's like, just tell us.
Right.
Like,
yeah. Especially if you're gonna like, especially if you're gonna do callbacks. Like if you weren't gonna do callbacks at all, fine. Yeah. All right. If you miss things, you miss things. But you know, season 15 calling back all the way to like season 1. Yeah. Why? Yeah. You know, it's like.
And also, it's based on mythology that pretty much most people have some kind of knowledge of, right? So like. The Bible stuff, most people have a vague knowledge of some of it. So for them to like introduce a character like Eve and say, oh yeah, she's the mother of monsters, and then kind of like not explain why or how she links to other characters in a biblical sense is kind of wild to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
I don't know.
Just name drop in. Just what they do is they for Supernatural, they just flick through the Bible and then like stop on a name. It's like, that's our next big bad. That's our next character.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, back into this. Eve then says, can I tell you a secret? And she gets real close to his ear, and it looks like she's like biting onto his ear. Yeah, it's gross. It then cuts to a house, and you see Rick like watching over his sleeping wife, and the wife wakes up because she senses he's there. And then suddenly you see this hammer, and there's a pretty good blood spatter.
Yeah, it is.
It's awful, but it's a pretty good blood spatter where he kills his wife. Yeah. And then we get the title card.
Poor Rick. I feel sorry for Rick. What did Rick do?
I mean, he talked about Jesus.
That's true. So after the title card, we cut into Bobby's living room, which felt weird after last week to like suddenly just be there again.
They didn't even mention that like I had to fix a window because of stupid Cass or whatever. Also, another thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way in this episode, Eve, and they don't call Cass.
I know. Like my face.
Come
if
on.
You can see it.
Disappointment.
So disappointing. Why would they not think this? Oh, whatever. You know? That whole thing that could have been solved, because maybe Cass could have just found out who had a worm in their brain just by looking at them, you know? Because he's a friggin' angel. Wait,
exactly. Okay, actually, let me scratch that, because they don't know her name is Eve yet. They just know her name is Mother of All.
Oh, that's true.
So, fine. But still,
Cass is
I'm
just
annoyed.
too busy. And like Dean doesn't want to bother him because they're already on they're already kind of like fighting, but like there's all that tension. So he doesn't make it worse. It's all good. So yeah, Bobby's got a case for them. He's like going through this map and like explaining all these different monsters that have appeared. So there was like a nest of vampires, like werewolf dance party, and some hunters have died, like taking these guys out. There's like ghouls all the way down. And I noticed that it's going down the I-80. So clearly they're on the way to something. As they go down, like Bobby circles a place and says, this is where like a guy like bashed in his family's head. So that's probably where they were heading to. Yep. So they go there, but they all go there. Yeah.
Another thing that, I hate how convenient this episode is. I think that's what it is. I think, like you just said, they all go there. Yeah. They usually don't all go somewhere. I know there's like multiple monsters, but like they don't explain why this city is important. Yeah. Or even if there is any like relevance to anything, because you just get plopped in a place. Like, okay.
And how do they...
Like, we don't even know the place is.
Yeah, and how do they know that was like the final destination? Because surely it just looks like a string of things and another string of things. Do you know what I mean? Like another incident. I don't know. Yeah, you're right.
It's weird.
So they go to the police station. I really like Bobby's like Fed outfit. The fact that he has to take off his hat and like slick his hair back. I don't know why. I just really enjoy it. And they are talking to this guy, Rick, and he's explaining that he didn't know what happened. Like he blacked out. All he remembers was like arriving at work. And he couldn't remember how he got there. So he rang home and no one picked up. And then obviously he found out that he'd killed everybody. He does remember like picking up Eve / a girl in her truck, but not anything else. And yeah, it's pretty sad because you're thinking like, yeah, this guy is going down for this. And like he genuinely didn't really do it.
Right, because he is actually a good person.
Yeah. So they're trying to figure out what's going on. They're doing like a...
Sorry.
No, go on. What?
Sorry. This, maybe I should wait until... I don't know. I'll just say it now and we'll be done. This monster doesn't multiply.
No.
So what's the point in it?
I don't know. It does feel like a trap, right? It feels like a trap.
Yeah.
Like that she was trying to lure them somewhere. But then again, like, maybe she was. Maybe she was just, you know...
But how is she aware of all of these hunters, though? These hunters in particular? Like,
yeah. Maybe it was just like a test run, you know?
Yeah.
To try and make something new. But yeah, no, I agree with you. So they're at this computer in the police station. They have some CCTV footage. Dean does say like, oh, so this is a demon possession or like a ghost possession. But like, I thought this was a monster thing that we were doing. And they managed to see... This security footage is too good.
I know.
What truck stop has security footage that good that they were managed to like zoom in on her? What was this? It's not CSI Miami.
This was living in... Yeah, right. This is, I don't know, 2070, not
Yeah.
2011.
It was so good, like stupidly good. So yeah, they see Eve get into the truck. And Dean's like originally like, ooh, and then he's like, oh, because as she turns towards the camera, there's like this static line that goes across her face and makes her face look all like gross. I don't know, like monstery.
Yeah.
Like, scream mask, that kind of thing. And then he like backs out and he's like, freakish nightmare, what the hell is that? Like, Bobby says, I've never seen that in my life. And I'm like, but you like, is it liches do that in the camera, really? And like, other stuff.
Wraith looks very similar.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, that's what I meant. So yeah. Bobby's obviously put it all together and he's like, oh, you know, maybe all those vamps and ghouls, maybe they're coming in for Mother's Day. And they're like, okay, so if that's her, like, what do we do? Because we don't know how to kill her. Like, do we just throw salt at her and hope? Which is quite a good line.
Love that. Yeah.
Bobby's like,
no, we're going to turn tail and run because we're in over our heads.
I mean, we better get some real info on this bitch before we do run into her.
Which is actually, like, a good idea for once.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But then, like, a police officer comes in, he's like, let's go. Bobby asks what's going on, and he said, oh, some guy went postal down at the cannery, like the same place. What was it with this cannery place? Like, it's because the worm was there, right? He came out of the guy's head. At his workplace.
Mm-hmm.
So Bobby agrees to go, and Sam and Dean are going to stay and do whatever research they can. He gets down to the docks, and the police officer said there were like 6 victims. The guy just walked in and like went crazy. And when the police captain sees Bobby, he says, is there a Fed convention in town or something? And then Rufus appears. And he's dressed like exactly the same as Bobby in just like a slightly different coloured coat. I kind of love that.
Yep.
Like they went shopping together or something.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they kind of have a little chat between them, they, you know, to persuade the police officer that they're supposed to be there. And then once he's departed, Rufus is like, Bobby asks Rufus, like, what's he doing there? And he's like, well, you know, same thing you are, like tracking all these monsters and stuff down the I-80. So they want to... Rufus is... I just love his humor, because, like, Bobby asks, like, can we talk to the perp? And he's like...
Well, we can give it a shot. I don't know if he's going to talk back to us, so... Cops put 8 bullets in him.
I know, he's such a sarcastic little person.
Such bad humor.
Yeah.
And then Rufus, like, asks him outright, like, so are we partnering on this? Like, what are we doing? Like, it's not rocket surgery. Again, I love that. We're here, let's do it just like the old times. Bobby's like, as long as I get to drive. Rufus is like, hell no. I love it so much.
The old married couple vibes is just so good.
It really is. Like, they're clearly such old friends. Like, they play it so well that they know each other. Like, even though they've only done, like, one episode together before this. It's so good.
Yeah.
Because you do feel like you've seen them much more, like, together than that time. So they go check out this guy, the shooter who is dead now. So he's in an autopsy room. And Rufus is asking the same thing that Dean was, like, how is this a monster thing? Because this looks like a possession. As he's saying this, like, Bobby notices, like, some black goo coming out this guy's ear. So he asks Rufus to pass him, like, a swab. And when it comes out, they're like, is it ectoplasm? Because it does kind of look like that. And, like, Rufus sniffs it.
I thought he was going to lick it, and I was like, don't. Don't do it. Don't do it.
So they agree that it's not ectoplasm. They're like, it's something new. And Rufus is like, new? There's no such thing as new. Like, you know, they've been around the block so many times. They've seen everything.
Yeah.
And Bobby's like, well, you know, those 2 guys, they both had one thing in common. They both worked at the cannery. So they all go to the cannery.
Everybody.
Yeah. And then the rest of the episode is in the cannery, which is just like this warehouse looking place. Like, it's not a warehouse, though. It's like a workplace. I don't know. It's a place. A cannery.
The funny thing about this, like, isn't a cannery where they put things in cans?
Yeah.
Well, where's the product that they put the things in the cans, because I don't see any of that.
Why didn't they put the worm in a can? Like it was begging for that to happen.
That's very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then they could have like panicked. They didn't know which can the worm was in, and they're all getting shipped out. And it's like, dun, dun, dun. The worm's still out there in a can. Anyway. So they turn up, and the first thing that Rufus says to Bobby is like,
I don't even know why you have a driver's license.
I think it's implying that Bobby drives slow, right? Like, why have a driver's license if you don't drive fast or something? Or like that he's so bad at driving. I don't know. It's fine. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think it's more like bad driving rather than like slow driving.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I'm not sure.
And Dean's like, well. And they both say that it's good to see him.
I can believe it. It must get old dealing with this miserable cuss here all by yourselves.
And Bobby just replies like, why don't you three get a room? So yeah, they walk. Sorry, this bit was, you're right, this was well done. So they are sweeping this cannery place. They go through a door, and they are just like very suddenly confronted with Samuel and Gwen. That's how I remember it, right? Yeah, and it is very like, it was quite shocking. You're like, oh, they're here too.
Well, so the thing that I really liked was that, so it was, you first see Gwen.
Yes.
And then you turn and you see Samuel through the door, and just like Dean walking straight through the doors and like the gun to his head.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was no hesitation. It was just like, I said I was going to kill you when I see you, and I'm going to kill you because I saw you.
Yeah.
I was just like, whoa.
It was pretty intense. You're right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Dean literally says,
Welcome the next time. No, hold on. I said I'd kill him. Just a second.
Like, what? What do you mean? Dean, you're not like this cold-hearted killer like this.
Isn't he? A little bit of a one.
Not to... I mean, yeah, he is, isn't he? Really?
He wasn't going to shoot Samuel, though. Like, 100% he was not going to shoot him, I don't feel. He was pretty mad. Like, he definitely would have hit him with the gun, but I didn't feel at any point he was actually going to shoot him. It was all grandstanding.
Because Sam wouldn't have been able to stop him.
Yeah, and he knows Sam's there to stop him. That's why he can, like, be the big man.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, Sam stops Dean. And he's like, I said I'd kill him. And he's like, no, wait a second. So they discuss, and Rufus asks how we know him. And it's like, he's our grandfather. And Rufus has said, oh.
Somebody needs a hug.
Read the room.
Rufus's lines are so good.
So good.
So good.
So they're like, yeah, we're working. We're here the same reason you are. Why everyone else is here. There's 6 people here now. And
not for long.
You know, Dean's really aggressive and hostile towards him. So Bobby tells him to take a walk. And although he kind of like, he's like, you got to be kidding me. He just like does it. There's not really an argument. He just does it. And Sam kind of takes him out, like kind of like a boxer in the ring. He's like, come on, you know, you're all right. It's okay, man.
Yeah.
So they have a little aside, like out of the room. And, you know, Dean's asking Sam, like, why he's not as mad as he is, essentially. And Sam's like, you know, he might know something. And Dean's like, you don't remember what he did, like I do. And Sam's like, you know, I'm not saying, like...
I'm not saying don't, I'm saying not yet.
Which I did think was quite a cold line from Sam. Like, it is kind of as unexpected. But again, I didn't really expect them to, like, murder him at any point. But there is such...
Not without reason.
Yeah, you know. I mean, they do have a reason, but they would need Samuel to, like, make the first kind of move in that situation. Right. Yeah. Oh, I like this bit where, like, Bobby and Samuel, like, square up to see who's the best dad.
Clearly it's not Samuel, let's be real.
It's clearly not Samuel. Because Bobby goes into like very protective father mode, right? He's like, so you're the one who hurt my boys, essentially. And And Samuel says, you know, you must be the guy pretending to be their father. Like, ooh.
Yeah.
And he says, well, someone ought to. Then, like, Sam walks up and kind of ends that. And Samuel says, you're looking well. Discusses how he actually looks different. And Sam explains that he got his soul back. No thanks to you. But he says, no thanks to you, I hear. Which Samuel picks up on and says, like, you don't remember. Right. So, yeah, they kind of rehash everything. Sam has his soul back. He doesn't remember the past year. He does say that he remembers it enough. But, like, how much that actually is, like, we're not sure.
Yeah.
Rufus is like, this is enough. He's like, I really hate to break up this circle of love, but why don't we talk shop? How about you tell us what it is you're hunting? And they then give the names. They say, a creature from purgatory. She calls herself Eve. So Samuel knows. So he must have been sent from Crowley to get Eve. This is why I think that they need her to open the gate to purgatory. He says he was here about 10,000 years ago. Yeah, that doesn't really line up, but like, maybe that's how long it took her to get mad.
Maybe.
And like every creature that walks the face of the earth can be traced back to her, and she's back.
I guess the problem with the 10,000 years is that the beginning of like recorded human history? Because that's the thing that I like, because there's creatures that they're going to face and gods that they face that are older. I'm pretty sure are older than 10,000 years.
Yeah, this is the problem, because in the supernatural verse, is the earth like millions of years old, or is it like Christian only 6,000 years old? Right, which is not that old. So was she, because depending on that answer, she was either here before supposedly like God created the earth, or she was here after. I think we have I think evolution is a thing in supernatural universe, because there's a line about, they say, don't step on that fish, I have big plans for it, or something.
Oh, that's right, because they do all their like time travel stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think evolution, this is such a wild concept. I think evolution is correct in the supernatural universe, which means that the earth is like, millions of years old, and like human recorded history, it's not that long. It's like, you are actually talking about 3,000 or so years. I'm bad at history. It's not that long.
No, it's longer than that.
So like we're talking like cavemen, I think. So like she would be Eve, right? Big dawn of man, 10,000 years. Yeah.
So maybe that is right. I don't know. I don't know enough about like the evolution of man to know exactly when it was like possible.
Because I filled my brain with supernatural TV
exactly
show rather than facts.
Exactly. So maybe they are accurate that this is actually when Eve could have walked to the earth.
Yes, I think that's the case.
The first woman. Okay. So, yeah, Bobby asked...
How the hell do you know all that?
You don't know half the things that I know, kid.
Which is funny, because he is a lot older than him. He's like, hell, until recently you didn't even know about us. And then he goes off and he's like, I know you throw your own kin to hungry ghouls. I think I know enough. And Gwen reacts to that like really strongly. She's like, you what? And Samuel tries to like play it off, and he's like, Dean lied to Bobby, but Bobby's like, well, why don't you just go ask Dean? So she does and leaves the room.
No.
So she goes and finds Dean and asks if it's true, that Samuel sold them out. And he's like, yes, he didn't even blink. That's the guy you're rolling with. And she's like, I really didn't know. Like, basically, like, I'm sorry about that. Kind of looks very apologetic, very like off, like ready to be on his side.
Right.
And he says, honestly, there's something I need to tell you. And then he just shoots her in the head. Like,
in torso.
Yeah, I forgot that, like, oh yeah, sorry, it was in the heart, wasn't it? Yeah, it wasn't in the head because that's important because he might have hit the worm. No, she doesn't have the worm. I'm so confused about the worm. He's got the worm.
Dean has the worm right now, yeah.
So they all run into the room when they hear the gunshot. Sam immediately, like, checks Gwen. Dean has, like, run off. And then they try and save Gwen. Like, Rufus is giving her, like, compressions and trying to plug up the gunshot wound. It's pretty sad. I feel sorry for Gwen. Like, I forgot she went out this way.
She didn't deserve it.
No, she didn't deserve it.
Yeah. It's again, it's just convenient to get rid of her. Like, the rest of the Campbells are all gone.
Yeah.
So she obviously had to go at some point. It does. I think back to, like, why she's still around, and I think it's literally because she reminds Samuel of Mary, because that's what she had said in a previous episode. And so I think she would be the only person that Samuel would protect, which is why he's trying to lie to her about like his actions.
You're 100% right, yeah.
Do you think he told her about Christian being a demon? Probably not.
No, I don't know. I don't think so. I think you're right. Yeah, he's trying to protect her because, yeah, she kind of looks, she has a passive resemblance to Mary, right?
Yeah, and that's all. And it's just like,
yeah,
I don't like it.
And you're right though. She had to die because otherwise we'd be asking, like, well, what happened to Gwen Campbell?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I'd rather see like Rufus and Gwen go out against the big bad that's coming.
Yeah.
I feel like why not keep them around as a resource to then kill off in the big fight? Like, Samuel, you can kill however you want to kill off. Fine. But these two characters, the deaths felt unnecessary, and like it this worm, I feel like, doesn't pose that big of a threat.
But I think that's part of it, though, is like they want to kind of remind you that, like, at any point, anyone can be taken out, right? It's just that, like, Sam and Dean are, like, super good at their jobs, but if you were a hunter, you could be taken out at any time by anything. You never know what's around the corner. Which is why when they lose their plot armor, that immediately happens.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so we come back from the ad, and Rufus is still trying to do CPR while Sam goes to search for Dean, and unfortunately, she passes. Bobby turns to Samuel and says, "Sorry, I'm sorry if you care," and this is when Samuel says, "Screw you, I care," which is where I think that he probably did actually. Yeah. Of all his family, that's probably the one person that he does care for. Mm-hmm. Sam then comes back and asks about her and doesn't really get an answer. Rufus just asks where Dean is, and he's sort of like disappeared. So they are going to move Gwen somewhere else while they then go search for Dean. Sam turns to Samuel and says,
"We're going to find him alive, Samuel. But I'm going to put a bullet into your head."
Everybody's out to kill Samuel today. So they're going through the rooms and locking doors behind them so that, nothing can get out and nothing can get in. I mean, why they didn't do this in the first place? Sam calls Dean's phone so they can hear it ringing, so they find where he is. And Rufus confronts him first and tells him to put his gun down, because Sam has his gun up at this point. Like, this is what I mean by it gets kind of chaotic, because I'm like, what is going on? Because they're all like in like, is sorry for the term, but it's like a Mexican standoff. Yeah. There's like Rufus pointing a gun at Dean, Sam's pointing a gun at Rufus, Samuel's pointing a gun at Dean, Dean is pointing a gun at Samuel. I think Bobby's there doing something. Like it's just it's a mess. Yeah. And then Dean then says, "Look, I'm not in the mood. Like, I just had a 12-inch herpy crawl out of my ear." Like, what?
I mean, Sam does say, like, what?
Yeah, I know, later on in the episode, it's like, what's your thing with herpes today? Also, if he thinks that's what 12 inches is, I'm sorry, Dean.
It's just a little worm.
He says, like,
You heard me. I just woke up on the ground just in time to see this worm thing sliding out of my freaking ear and into that vent.
how do you see it slide out of your ear? I don't know, but that's fine. Gonna, like, he says, tell me what the hell's going on. And Samuel explains that he killed Gwen. And he says that, I was out there talking to her. That's the last thing I remember. That thing must have jumped me. So they're figuring out that it's a monster that gets into you. And so it's actually Dean who terms it a Khan worm on steroids.
Right, let me Google that, because now I'm thinking that I don't have it right. That, like, the Khan worm was a thing. Oh. No, wait, hang on. Looking on the Supernatural wiki page and not the actual, okay. Yeah, no, sorry, I just did a little Google. Because I've watched Wrath of Khan so many times, and like I didn't pick up on this, which made I'm not a Star Trek fan. I'm being gatekept by a Supernatural episode. So it's not a reference to Khan, as in the character. It's a reference to the movie Wrath of Khan, because in that movie there are these eels called Seti eels. And they are worm-like parasites that go into your ear and take control of your mind. So they are the same thing.
Okay.
And it does make more sense. Yeah, I'm not complaining that's a niche reference. I was going to, and I was like, no, actually, it's quite clever. It's fine. But like, okay. How many times has Dean watched Wrath of Khan? And, been sad about, like, Spock and Kirk getting forever separated by a wall of glass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh,
That was my Star Trek detour.
Hell yeah. So Sam then sort of further explains.
Parasite, something that took over your body. Worm crawls in, your worm crawls out.
Monster possession? That's novel.
They are very trusting, because Samuel's like, well, it could still be in you. So we can't really trust anything you're saying. And they check his ear, and like Rufus puts his finger in his ear. He's like, hey, at least buy me a drink first. And Rufus just says second date. And he's like, oh yeah, we're goo positive. So does that mean that if it leaves you, you get goo in your ear?
I think so, yeah. Yeah. Okay. I do love Dean just shouting,
Fine.
what does that mean? What does it mean? Oh, love him.
Yeah. And then Bobby has a plan of just like, all right, everybody give up your guns. If it's in somebody, at least let's not have weapons that are easy to like kill everybody. So they put them all in like this sack that he's just found, just laying around. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's a factory, so I'm sure there are just bags.
Sure.
Around. Yeah. And then Rufus turns around to Samuel and says, like, are you waiting for a handwritten invitation? I thought it was great. They go to like a locker room where they then lock up the weapons and decide that they need to make a plan. And they're going to just like make phone calls to try and find out, any information. Mm-hmm. So Bobby and Rufus are making those calls. The thing is, I guess because Samuel does have the Khan worm right now, you would think that they would ask him more information about it, because like, and I mean, what are they trying to find out? Because if they've never seen it before, what's the likelihood that anyone else has seen it before? Samuel Campbell has like knew what Eve was. Yeah. Okay, actually at this point is when, as soon as he called her Eve, that's when they should have been like, yo, Cass.
Yes.
Come downeth to deal with this, please. But I guess distracted by Samuel to do that. Anyway. So they're getting nowhere. And then Samuel's like, oh, I'm just going to go. Like, he starts to walk out the room, and Sam gets up to like stop him. He's like, relax, just a bathroom break, unless you want to hold it for me, which is gross. That's your grandson. Like, stop it.
Yeah.
Neither of Bobby or Rufus's contacts have any information. And it's now time for plan B, which is going guns blazing. And Rufus is like, oh, like Omaha?
Mm.
And he's like, Bobby's like, well, screw you for bringing up Omaha. That's just low.
I did think this whole montage was fairly interesting, and like it kind of shows the depth of their knowledge and like how many contacts they have, and clearly that Rufus and Bobby are like on par with how much information they have. Like they are very much equals in knowledge and networking. So really like between them, they should have been able to figure this out, and they didn't, which is again like kind of adding to the stakes of this, I think, because normally and a lot in this season, they have a problem, they ring Bobby solves the problem for them. And I think having him there alongside someone who is equally as good at solving problems is just supposed to be telling on the kind of threat they're facing. But like you said, it doesn't really like pay off, because like this is Worm, man.
Right. It's like yeah. And also you also have Samuel Campbell, who again is supposedly this all-knowing hunter, which I don't think I've really seen evidence of that. Not really.
No. It's just,
I mean, the only time it has been the vampire cure. And that only happened because he had a journal from his family. Yeah. So it's not him who knew that. It's the past generations of him that knew that. So I was just like...
Why don't hunters write anything down, man? Like, I know, like, just why not? No one's going to believe it anyway, unless they're other hunters.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I don't understand, like, now that Samuel's dead, why are they not going back to the compound to, like, get all of his notes and, like, what, like, all of that stuff? I guess the compound falls apart after this because Samuel's gone. But, like, there's valuable knowledge there, and, like, they don't even bother to try and get it.
I just wish we'd had more, like...
Not even Bobby's interested?
Yeah, exactly. Like, they must have got something. I just wish we had more, like, hunter culture. It would have been really interesting if, like, hunters left each other, like, secret messages. Like, they say, like, people leave messages outside houses, like, with symbols saying, like, friendly person lives here or whatever.
Right.
Like, what if hunters did that, but with, like, no nest of vampires, and then, like, a symbol for, like, this is how you cut, like, you need to cut their heads off or something. Like, I just feel like hunters have supposedly been around for so long. Are you telling me they don't have some kind of like internal culture? I guess this is kind of answered later on, that they're kind of almost like kept under the thumb of the men of letters, which is why maybe that didn't develop. Right. But like they didn't know that at this point. But then,
well, that's another point of that though, is that the men of letters disappeared in the 70s, earlier 60s. So
are you telling me that like
40 years
they don't have an internet message board, right? And that Sam's not on
it. I'm sure like when no, I'm not gonna get into it. You're gonna
leave it alone.
But yes, there should have been one. Like Charlie didn't set one up. Come on.
And no one's gonna notice. It's the internet.
It's the internet.
Yeah.
Anyway. And if someone stumbles across it because they're looking for answers as to why, like, there's suddenly a cold spot in my house, well, there you go. You got your answer of how to fix it.
It's a ghost, man.
Yeah. No. So, Sam and Dean confront Samuel as he's coming back from the bathroom. And Dean's like, I was just wondering how you sleep at night. And Samuel's just like a baby. Thanks for asking. It's like, you fed us to Crowley.
True, but what am I going to do about it now? Do I blame you for wanting to kill me? Of course not, Dean. What I did was... But I'm not apologizing. I did what I did. I don't cry over spilt blood.
I think this is why I've never liked Samuel, because of this.
Yeah.
And just like, I know he's like worm infected right now, but it's just like, it's so cruel because it is like, it's your direct descendant.
But because he's so mean, that's how they don't figure out until basically this, actually seeing visual evidence that he's got a worm, because he's just like that as a person.
That's very true. That is very true. And you can see why Mary doesn't want to be a hunter after dealing with him. Yeah. Who would want
if
to?
If only we knew what she thought of this.
Right? Exactly. I know. Anyway. So Samuel's like, just because Sam interjects and he brushes him off. Just because you're Dr. Jekyll at this moment doesn't mean you can be all high and mighty. Don't forget, we spent a year together. And he's like, yeah, but you still sought me out even after a year. And he's like, well, that pales in comparison to what you did, and on more than one occasion, which is not true. Maybe there was some planning. Well, actually, okay, never mind. Turning Dean into a vampire, even though he knew there was that's pretty bad.
That's up there.
Fine. Yeah. That's fine. And possibly bringing the gin to Dean as well to get him back into hunting. Also,
Solar Sam was a bad dude. But Samuel wasn't there going, hey, maybe don't do that. That's a bad thing to do, was he? He was just like, yeah, okay. Whatever gets the job done.
And also, with the soul, he turned his back on family or betrayed his family. So
Samuel has a soul, so yeah, he should know better.
There's no excuse. Dean then's like, the only reason you're alive is because we're working a job. The minute we kill this thing, you're next. Samuel turns a little bit and Dean sees the goo coming out of his ear. He then Samuel has a gun, a small gun in his pocket, and tries to shoot at Sam and Dean, but he misses. And Bobby runs out, and they tell him that Samuel has the goo worm, the con worm, and they then get their weapons out. So they had their weapons for no, they didn't have any weapons for a scene.
Yeah.
Hey, don't feel bad. It was a good plan. Except for the part where a monster would definitely not give up all his weapons.
Why did they frisk him?
Why didn't they frisk him? Yeah.
Why didn't they frisk him? Great minds think alike.
Yeah, exactly. I guess they're trusting, but you don't trust Samuel. You've established you don't trust Samuel. So why
also,
not? Anyway.
Any of you could be possessed, so you shouldn't be trusting anybody.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, this bit I didn't understand. I didn't understand because so they then go further into the cannery to try and search for Samuel, and Sam saves Dean from tripping a booby trap. But I'm like, how quickly does Samuel work? Because it's an intricate thing that he rigged.
I guess he's supposed to be good, and the worm can use all your strengths against other people, presumably. So he probably is that good. I mean, it was just some stuff strapped to a fuel canister and a tripwire. I feel
but he had to get all of that stuff, and they were together for I don't know, 5 minutes while they're getting all their guns and stuff.
Unless he'd set some stuff up before they arrived, maybe. But of course, then he knew where it all was.
Maybe. Okay, I'll give you that.
I don't know though, but yeah, you're right. It's supposed to be this is how good he is.
But I'm just but nobody can physically work that fast unless they have supernatural speed. And there's no indication that this worm gives you any additional powers apart from not remembering what you did.
Yeah. I agree. So, it was weird. The time differential didn't work.
No. So then they keep going and they go through a corridor, and then Sam is in front and the door slams shut, but Samuel's not there. So I don't know how that got tripped, but okay. It was a way to separate them. Yeah. That was the only thing. And they're going to go around to try and regroup. And then Sam comes across Samuel, who is somewhere. His back is turned to him. And they have this like back and forth where Samuel's like, you're not going to do it. Like, you're not going to shoot me. You've just got your soul back. You wouldn't shoot your own family. And Sam's like, yeah, okay. try the family thing again. Like, that's not going to work. Samuel then says, Mary's still my daughter. You're named after me. Yeah. It appears to be our moment, Sam. You still want to know about your summer, because earlier he baited Sam with like telling him about the memories that he's missing. He says, you still want to know about your summer vacation? I'll tell you all about it. You're dying to know. And Sam was like, okay, well, sit down and we'll have a talk. But as he's saying this, he's coming closer and closer and closer to Sam, and Sam's telling him to stop. And then at the last moment, Sam raises his gun and shoots him in the head.
It was shocking. I kind of forgot that Sam killed Samuel, but like there also can be only one, so he had to like kill his namesake.
Yeah. And I think he would always do it. I think Sam is the one that generally does the hard actions sometimes. I feel like, well, I don't know. I could be wrong.
I still don't think, I just don't think that Dean could outright kill Samuel because he's family, right? And it's just so in his psyche that like that is the thing that matters, like your blood, family matter. And I think, he just couldn't ultimately pull the trigger, but like that doesn't really matter to Sam. So he's like, yeah, all right. That's his and he did wait like until it was his last choice, really.
That's very true. Yeah.
And it's kind of almost like, it feels like revenge a little bit. I mean, not just because he betrayed them, but for the year. Like, it feels like revenge for the year that he's missing.
Yeah.
I guess also by taking Samuel out of the picture, I didn't really think this for the writers, but like, Samuel now can't trigger Sam's wall breaking down anymore because he's no longer there to provide any memories, which might be a point.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Because like, earlier in the episode, Samuel was going to tell Sam some stuff, and Dean was like, wait, no, we don't need to know. Like he was conscious about that whole wall situation. So it's just convenience. But I was shocked. I was still shocked. I forgot Sam killed Samuel. I don't know why I forgot that, but I think it was just the suddenness of it that you kind of weren't expecting him to do it either. Yeah. Like, I mean, like any of the audience, not just Annabelle particularly, but like, a general.
That makes sense. I feel like there is still a little bit of Soulless Sam in there because in this next bit, the way that he's talking, I guess it's shock. Yeah. Maybe it is shock that is kind of masking his emotions, but he does feel very much like Soulless Sam for a little bit.
I agree.
Where he's just like, yeah.
I mean, I don't really feel like we can like mourn Samuel. Like, I don't know, he was kind of a bad dude. I don't know what else to say about him. He was just kind of crap. He was just kind of a bad dude. He was bad to his grandsons for the sake of their mother, who would be mad that he did that. Like, I don't know.
It makes no sense. Yeah.
Like, sure. Yeah, anyway. Surely he'd want to like honor Mary's memory by looking after her kids. Like that's the thing I think that annoys me about Samuel so much. I think that his logic doesn't mesh with mine. Never mind. So Dean and Bobby managed to get in with Rufus as well, and Bobby's like, "Oh, thank goodness," because obviously they just heard a gunshot, so they thought maybe that Samuel had shot Sam, and they just tell him to put the gun down. Sam does, and he's like, "It's me, it's still me. I'm not a worm man." And Rufus is like,
"Okay, that's great, Sam. Just gotta cuff you till we can be sure, okay?"
Sam's pretty much like, it's definitely in him. Like, I haven't got a worm in my brain, but like, to be fair, you wouldn't know. I don't think you'd remember the worm going into your head. Does that make sense?
No, that's the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. So
yeah, you black out.
They ask if he did say anything, but he's like not sure. They take Samuel like away and like swab his ears, but they don't find anything at all. Sam then has a bit of a crisis of faith, right? Because he's like,
"What?
So you mean he wasn't a monster when I ganked him?
Well, he was a monster, but just not in the literal sense.
That's so true. That's what Bobby should have said. It's like, it's fine.
Right.
And Rufus says, "Was only one way to find out," and asks Bobby if he still has a cranial saw in his car. And he's like, "Of course I do." Oh, that's so weird. That's a weird old man. I love a weird old man. Just hanging out with like weird like tools in their car, mowing their lawns.
Yeah, like that's not. Hopefully, nobody stops them.
Yeah. Just like Dean's like, "Oh well, you can't go by yourself because what? You have the worm." And Rufus is like, "Oh no, don't worry, he won't. Like we'll both go and grab some tools and see about getting some power on." And he's like, "I want you to watch him." What he says is,
And I want you and you to... Okay, I want you and you to watch him and... Or if anything crawls out of anybody's, somebody step on it.
And he's like, "Okay, don't worry." Like Sam says, "I'll watch Samuel, Dean will watch me." So Rufus and Bobby then leave to go get this saw out of Bobby's car, leaving Sam and Dean and dead Samuel. Dean immediately starts comforting Sam and is like, "Worry, you did the right thing." And Sam's like, "You mean you think I did? If it's in him and I'm me," said, "the thing's playing a 3-card Monty with us all." So, because like Sam could be infected and the monster could have killed Samuel instead. Like that's a possible scenario.
Right. Mm-hmm. Just like how Dean killed Gwen.
Exactly. Which Dean doesn't seem that cut up about. I feel like he maybe would have been a bit more emotional about that, but like, because they were like kind of buddies, sort of. They had a moment of like being buddies.
They had a moment, yeah.
So Dean's like, "Well, I'm just going to assume you're you." And Sam's like, "Okay, do you want to uncuff me?" And Dean's like, "No." So Sam's like, I don't know. I mean, I barely remember Samuel, like, and what I do remember, it's not good. And what he did to us, but because he still feels bad, like, again, grandfather.
Yeah.
And Sam's like, "I can't help but think, what would Mom say?" As in, like, what would she say to him about shooting her dad? I feel like she'd have more to say on the fact that he betrayed them. I don't know.
I think so too. Yeah.
Knowing Mary, I feel like she'd be more mad at that.
Yeah, and the fact that, like, Mary wanted to run away. Yeah. She didn't want to stick around. Like, she was ready to go. I honestly think she probably would have never spoken to Samuel again. Definitely. I know she ended up, like, naming her children after her parents, but, like, I don't think she really remembers all of this, right? Though.
Yeah.
There was some weird time travel thing.
God, I don't know anymore. Like, I don't necessarily think that Mary has any like animosity for Samuel. Like, I actually think their relationship was like fairly good. It's just the fact that like he was trying to push her into a lifestyle that she didn't want. Like, it's any kind of friction that you have with your family. Like, she still loves him and probably felt guilty about him dying. Like, she doesn't remember the whole demon thing, right? No, she does. She does remember them making a deal with Azazel for John's life. I'm sure she does remember it.
I don't remember.
But Samuel died, right? Because of all that. So I feel like it would be her honoring his memory or whatever, right? Rather than holding, like you say, holding any animosity against him and make her trying to push her into being a hunter.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So yeah, I think Mary would be mad about Samuel rather than them, and like the stuff was just bad. By all rights, he shouldn't have been alive anyway. So
that's very true. Yep.
And Dean just say, like, "Do you know what I think Mum would say?" She'd say, "Just because your blood doesn't make you family, you've got to earn that." Which, again, is the message of Supernatural that gets lost along the way. But Dean said it outright here, so we can use that as proof. All the lights come on in the cannery, and Rufus and Bobby come back, and they have this bone saw. And Bobby's like, "Do you guys want to, like, leave?" And they're like, "No." And he's like, "No, you want to leave? We're about to like cut open your grandpa's head. Like, do you want to go?"
Yeah.
So they leave. Rufus notices that this saw has like a real frayed cable, and he's like, have you been dumpster diving again? Bobby's like, what? It's fine. So Rufus plugs it in like real tentatively. Yeah, because to me, American plug sockets are wild. Why don't you have a switch to turn it on and off? Why is it always on?
I don't know.
It's crazy unsafe to me. Anyway. So while they're like cutting open Samuel's head, or are going to try and start to do so, Bobby decides to start a conversation. And he's like, Rufus, I've been thinking, it was my fault, Omaha. And Rufus is like, it wasn't your fault. And Bobby's like, I should have listened to you. Rufus is like, of course you should have listened to me. And then Bobby goes on to like try and apologize. But Rufus is like, we've already had this conversation. Like, you've already apologized.
I'll never forgive you for what happened. You got that? Never. So change the subject, Bob.
This was a hard moment, but like Rufus doesn't have to forgive him. We assume that like Rufus's partner died, like because they talk about her. So maybe like either a wife, a girlfriend, or maybe a daughter even. Like it's not actually clear who died at Omaha, but it was something Bobby messed up.
I do wish they kind of cleared it up a little bit more, other than like, there wasn't really a plan, so they went out and shot everything, and that caused somebody to die. It probably is a wife, right?
Yeah, it usually is. And like it would explain as well a bit of Bobby's backstory about maybe why he's a bit more cautious about just going in like guns blazing, like he likes to do his research and all this kind of stuff, because it went wrong for him before.
Yeah, exactly. No, that makes sense. Yeah. And why he became the research guy rather than the like on task guy.
I think so. And like the fact that they're still good, right? Although Rufus doesn't forgive him, like they're still good. They're still friends. Like they've got each other's back. And
right. He can get over it for the time being.
It's why they don't hang out anymore. Like they'll do jobs together, but like why they're not maybe as good friends as they could be. But it's also probably why Bobby's always got his back in a jam. Like he feels guilty partly because of like whatever happened to Rufus. I think Rufus also understands though that like it could have equally been him, right? He could have made the mistake, because that's the whole
that's true.
Hunter shtick. It's either you or them making a mistake and getting killed. Like it's just part and parcel of the job. So they begin sawing into Samuel's head, and he's suddenly like his eyes open and he sits like bolt upright. And they have this like actually like a real fun fight. I thought this was between like Rufus, Bobby, and Samuel.
Because like three old dudes trying to beat each other up.
It's like it's good. it's very like, I don't know, it's kind of stupid, but I kind of like it. It's like throwing each other into stuff and all sorts of things. It ultimately ends in Samuel like breaking off a table leg and like shoving through the door handle so Sam and Dean can't like help the fight. And then it kind of continues. Eventually, like Bobby throws Samuel against this frayed cable outlet that they've set up for the bone saw, and he gets electrocuted. Is like, and the worm slides out of his head. It was so gross.
It's pretty bad.
Why is that not thing causing brain damage? First of all, it's huge. How's that sitting comfortably in your brain? Anyway.
I mean, how does it even get in like the ear canal?
Like surely it would just kill you outright. How does anyone survive? How did Dean survive?
I don't know. Maybe it like flattens itself out like a pancake.
Like a little tapeworm.
Like
a little tapeworm.
Yeah.
So Dean and Sam, while Samuel was being electrocuted, like Dean took the cuffs off Sam and they were kicking in tandem this door, which was very cool. I did like this a lot, where they like finally kick it through. They run in, they're like, are you okay? Are you okay? Like Rufus has been kind of knocked out, so we wake him up. I like how like when because Bobby gets up, he's like, oh, right, like still like looking for a fight. I don't know why. I thought that was so funny. Rufus says, this can't be my afterlife because the three of you are here. What happened?
I love that.
So yeah, they rehash what happened. Samuel came back to life and then died again because Bobby threw him against a live wire. It shorted out and he went crazy and the thing crawled out of his ear. So electricity is a thing that's going to kill this monster.
Yeah.
But of course, it's now gone, so they don't know who it's in or if it is even in anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam and Dean didn't see because they were outside the door. Rufus and Bobby got knocked out, so it could be in either of them. So because Dean does say, like, it either bailed or it's in either one of you, and Rufus is like, or it's in one of you. And Dean's like, no, we were fine. We were looking at each other.
Yeah.
But Rufus does dispute that. He's like, were you looking at each other 100% of the time? They're like, no.
Define 100. That was a good line.
So Sam's like, all right, how about we check for goo? And they all get their like fingers and like stick them in the air and like wiggle them around, but none of them find any goo. Which surely Dean should find goo because he was gooed earlier.
Yeah, right?
His ears?
I don't know. When?
Yeah, exactly. At what point? So Dean suggests that this thing wised up and covered its trail, so it really could be anybody. They kind of like kick Samuel and was like, well, I think he's definitely dead, so it's not in him. Like, because Sam had got the cable and like held it against Samuel to like check the worm was it still in his head, and he obviously like jerks around with it. And he's like, okay, who wants to go first? And he like holds out this cable.
And I'm just like, when this was going on, I'm not as apparent by this episode already. I don't know all the facts about things, but I'm pretty sure doing what they're about to do would just kill you.
Depends on how much electricity there is. Like,
but this is a warehouse.
Yeah, so it's
why wouldn't they have the full?
It's a lot, right? It's just
full shebang,
and it would also like throw you across the room. I feel as well. I think that usually happens. Like,
right?
I don't know why.
Because there's not even like there's no transformer on this. It's just straight from the wall to your skin. I'm like, you'd be dead.
Yeah,
surely.
I thought that too. It also reminded me of like an episode of Jackass. I don't. It's like shocking each other for no reason. Just like the way they were going about it. Like, come on, put this massive voltage of electricity through me. I thought the same thing. I thought this would kill you, right? You shouldn't do this. It would kill you.
That's literally what we've been told our entire lives. Like, don't stick the fork in the socket.
Don't do it because you die.
Or at least brain damage.
And like they look like it hurts. Like there's no involuntary movement. Like, because when you get electrocuted, your body like spasms, right? So everything goes tight. So you should have seen them like zzz, and you actually have to
fall to the ground.
Yeah. You can't, like, if you electrocuted yourself like that, if you did it to yourself, like I think Sam does, right?
He does, yeah.
There's no way that he'd be able to move that cable, like, away from his arm, because his muscles would, like, tighten. He'd need someone else to, like, do it.
It's exactly what happens with the taser. If you've ever seen any of those tasing videos.
Also,
like, you see them tense up and then fall.
Yeah. Do none of them have a taser? Could they not have just tased each other?
No, they have guns. They have guns. Come on, they're not gonna carry a taser. They probably will now, but
yeah.
Wasn't it in season 1 where they had that weird monster that only electricity could kill it?
It was,
and they like use a puddle.
It was Faith, and it's when Dean gets electrocuted and nearly dies.
Right.
Because it messes up his heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought this was stupid too. I agree with you. It doesn't work scientifically. So they all electrocute themselves. It's dumb. It doesn't leave as much of a mark as it should. It doesn't hurt as much as it should. I don't know what happened. And they walk up to Rufus because he's the third person. So it goes Sam,
Dean.
I think Dean, and then they walk up to.
It goes Dean, Sam.
Oh yeah, you're right. Dean offers first. Dean, Sam. And then they walk up to Rufus and he's like, no, I've got a pacemaker. And they're like, since when have you got a pacemaker? He actually is like, he is telling the truth because he's like, oh, since Bush Jr., like I'm down 3 toes too, FYI. Like, clearly having some kind of like lots of health issues. He's like, okay, just make it quick. So they also electrocute Rufus. And Dean asks, because Dean electrocutes him.
You okay? No, I'm not okay. Give me that.
Let me get my revenge.
Yeah. And Bobby's like, okay, it's my turn. Well, it's not inside me, so, go ahead. And he's just, like, edging away, like, slowly every time they try to put the cable by him. It's so stupid. And, like, Rufus is trying to chase him with it, like, come on. And it clicks for him real quick, because it's, like, the second shift away, he's like, Bobby would never do that. He's like, just a second, nothing, whatever you are. He's like, Bobby, my ass. And then Bobby stabs Rufus in the chest.
In the chest.
Yeah. In the heart. And they shout,
no.
Sam shouts, Bobby! And then Rufus. Yeah. It's sad. Like, it feels like it maybe shouldn't have killed him, but, like, it does. So, yeah. Rufus is dead now.
Yeah. Unnecessarily. There was no reason. Like, the only thing it does, obviously, like, Bobby's not going to be pleased with Eve, which nobody would be anyway. But I guess he has an extra vendetta, and, like, I think another part of why I don't like this is because they have this really forced conversation. Like, out of nowhere, they're suddenly talking about, their past drama.
Yeah.
When, they could have talked about it when they were burying the body in Weekend at Bobby's or any other time.
Yeah.
Like, it just... I think this is also part of the reason why it doesn't feel good, is because Rufus saying, like, look, I don't forgive you for it. So just, like, let's just move on. And obviously nobody's entitled to your forgiveness, which is fine. But also, they don't die in, like, the next 15 minutes.
Yeah. It's really hard. Like, maybe, like, Bobby was sensing that this was maybe a difficult situation they were in, so felt like he had to say it before, like, something happened. But
yeah,
like, that sixth hunter sense that, like, this is a bad situation. Maybe I should get some stuff off my chest. But yeah.
But it didn't make either of them feel good. Like, Bobby didn't get what he needed out of that conversation, and it just pissed off Rufus.
Yeah. Like, I guess it's like, there's a lot of water under the bridge for a lot of hunters, and, like, maybe they shouldn't be bringing up the past, but, like, that's also not very healthy. So
yeah, that's very true.
I don't like the way they ended it, because they are friends, and I felt like they just kind of had to, like, ruin their friendship for tragedy's sake.
So the only reason why, like, I'm not more mad at it, I think, is because I do know that there is a Rufus and Bobby episode in the future, like, as a flashback thing.
I agree.
So I think that's the only reason why I'm not mad at it. Because we get to see them again interact, but, like, really, like, the circumstances of that episode might get on my nerves. We'll see, because I don't remember what the episode is. Obviously, it's me.
It's all right.
But so yeah, that's the only saving grace for this. Otherwise, I'd be more annoyed.
Yeah,
I'd be more annoyed.
I really like Rufus as a character. I think he just added a bit of extra, like, dimension to what hunters can be. Yeah, and it sucks that it just, like, killed off Bobby's friend, and someone, like, you could have just kept coming back for other episodes, just, like, randomly, and it's like, hey, it's Rufus,
Yeah, exactly. So Sam, tells Bobby, like, look, there's 2 of us and 1 of you, and they managed to, like, knock him up and tie him to a chair. This is where Dean says,
Well, hey there, you little herpy.
Why do you keep talking about herpes?
What? I don't. Shut up. Shut up.
Like, I feel like we're missing something here. Like,
Yeah.
I know it's been a while since they've done like a STD joke. Like they used to do them quite a lot.
Yeah.
Usually at Sam's expense. But like, what?
So weird.
Yeah, this is not the time. This is not the time to be making jokes. So they've sealed up the room, so there's nowhere for this creature to go. So to get comfy. I do like what they did with Bobby's voice here. I don't know if like Jim Beaver did it himself. I don't think so. I think it's like altered like after the fact.
I think so.
But it's like all like it's quite deep and like somewhat distorted a little bit. I don't know. It felt very unworldly. It was very cool.
Yeah.
I liked it. And so the creature is talking through Bobby and he says, "I'm comfy. It's nice in here."
And you love this guy, don't you? You really want to kill me and take him with me? Haven't you lost enough pals today?
And really, they've only lost one. That's a pal, which is Rufus.
Yeah.
But that's fine. And Dean's like, "Well, okay, well, we'll do what we have to. But I've got some questions. So you can either play ball or we can fry up a little shrimp on the Barbie." And like this monster is actually quite forthcoming.
Yeah.
Because he's like, "Yeah, I've been waiting for you to ask questions. I've got nothing to hide." And then Sam says, "What are you?" And it says, "You haven't got a name for me yet. I'm new around here. Eve cooked me up herself." And then Dean like electrocutes Bobby for whatever reason.
It's answering your questions, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Dean then asks who Eve is, and the creature responds,
"The mother of all of us, and the end of all of you."
I love that line, especially the way it's said. It's just great.
Yeah, I agree.
By the time she's done, there'll be more creatures than humans. You'll be in pens. We'll serve up your young and call it veal. Fine.
Yeah.
So this is where and Sam asks, what's the deal with all of this? I mean, how's jumping a few truckers going to help? The creature's like, "You think this was to mess with a couple of cannery workers?" No, it was, like I said, it was a trap. We led you here, and that Eve has a message for them.
You're all gonna die. She's pissed. She's here. And it's gonna be nothing but pain for you from here on in.
I think the problem that I have with this is that it mirrors Lilith way too much.
Yeah. I think you could be generous and say that maybe they didn't mean to lead everybody there. Maybe they're trying to get Samuel because Crowley is the one that's kidnapping alphas and like trying to find purgatory, and actually Sam and Dean don't actually really have anything to do with that anymore.
But when she had that first conversation with the trucker, she was like, "Your apocalypse came and went."
Oh yeah, so maybe it is Sam and Dean she's like annoyed at. I don't know, like why?
Well, so I guess if the world was decimated with the apocalypse, maybe that meant that like she could rise in some kind of way.
But we see Apocalypse World, like later on, it's just dead.
That's true.
Yeah.
And
like surely by stopping the apocalypse, they also saved her monsters, but then they also kill them. Maybe she's just got a vendetta against hunters because they hunt monsters.
Right, and she sees them all coming into purgatory because she's also stuck there.
Yeah.
She's and like, "My babies, they keep dying."
And like, who are these bozos, like who keep killing all my monsters but also stop the apocalypse? I don't know.
Yeah. Because clearly, like, I think the message is for Sam and Dean and like, look, we can kill anybody around you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Because she would know about them from the dragon guys too, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fine. Sure. Why not? Why not?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just I think it's because we've seen it before.
Yeah.
Anyway. And Dean's like, well, here's my response, and does the cable again.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam's getting concerned. He's like, I don't know how much more you can take. Again, the monster says, you can't kill me, not without Bobby dying.
Mm-hmm.
And Dean's like, well, we'll just have to do, what we have to do. They then like duct tape around his nose, mouth, and ears so that like the creature really can't go anywhere, and really start to electrocute him. And like you see all this more black goo coming out of all its orifices, and then suddenly like the creature like falls to the floor when Sam like pulls the duct tape down. It like comes out of his nose.
Gross. Yeah.
Gross.
It also could have come out of his eyes, just saying. That's how your head works. But
yeah,
gross.
That's true. Yep. I'm glad it didn't.
Yeah.
I'm glad it didn't. And it is dead. It's like fried.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't step on it afterwards, just to like extra make sure.
I thought the exact same thing. Where's the visual of them stepping on that worm? Because like, I feel like every other show that's ever had any kind of worm, and they kill the worm, they like step on the worm.
Or like burn it or something. Like really make sure there is like, because they have no idea how this thing works.
Nope.
And like they didn't take the extra steps to like make sure it hadn't replicated itself, and like all this, that, and the other. Like
smush it, put it in a jar, like do something. Don't just leave it there.
Do something. Yeah. Maybe they did do something, we just don't see it.
Yeah, but they definitely should have done the foot splatting the worm. Like that's just scrap. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Basics.
Yeah.
And they're very worried about Bobby because he's not really breathing. And then it cuts, and you're like, oh, what was Bobby's fate?
Yeah.
And then it cuts to like a grave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like a freshly covered grave. And of course it's not Bobby's grave, it's Rufus's.
Yeah.
And Dean says, I gotta say, I never figured Rufus for a religious type.
Mm-hmm.
He's already said he was Jewish. I remember him saying that, and like somebody getting confused.
Several times, I think he mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then Bobby appears, and he's like, well, he didn't exactly. I love the fact that Bobby's like completely fine. He doesn't have like a massive like burn mark on his neck or anything like that. Yeah. He's not like bandaged in any way. Like that's an open wound. Whatever. We've established that this whole electricity thing does not work. Anyway. So Bobby says, he didn't exactly keep kosher, but he would pull the old can't work on Sabbath card whenever we had to bury a body. Oh. Bobby then goes into like his backstory and says, I was a job. I was Joe Mechanic. Then my wife got possessed and went nuts on me. I stabbed her and that didn't stop her. Next thing I knew, this guy comes busting in, soaks her with holy water, and sends the demon right to hell so fast. I'd gone away for killing her, but Rufus cleaned up everything.
Taught me a thing or two about what's really out there. Pretty soon we were riding together. Worked like that for years. Kind of like you two knuckleheads.
Which is like super, like they must have connected, right? Rufus and Bobby, to then be like, oh, we could be family and hum, right?
Because he's basically saying they were like brothers, right? He's comparing them to Sam and Dean. So he's saying, he was like my brother, and then something irreconcilable happened between us, and we just weren't the same.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, you're right. They must have got on. They must have had a vibe.
Mm-hmm. And that's really difficult to do when you're like an older person.
Yeah, but I guess I don't know when it was though, because like how long ago did Bobby's wife die? Like we're talking about 30 years ago,
or probably more than that, way more than that, because he was teaching John stuff.
Yeah, I'm so confused about the timeline, but yeah, like it was a while ago. So I don't know. I just think it's a shame. And I would have really liked to seen some like young Rufus and Bobby adventures, just one time. Me too. In the would they have been like the 70s or the 80s? Was there any way like Winchesters could have ever overlapped with them? The show.
No, I think that I think Bobby is like in his 60s.
Yeah,
here
I'd say 60s.
So I would guess that like maybe he was in his mid to late 20s when this happened with his wife.
So we're talking like late 60s, 70s. That kind of is when the Winchesters is.
Yeah, I guess early 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they could have, but then they would have known Campbell from back then.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
That's true. Ah, silly.
I don't know.
Maybe
not.
Maybe
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe Carl's some spoilers there, but like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, it could have been cool. It could have been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is, they would have worked under the Men of Letters. Anyway, I don't want to get in. Like, Supernatural and time and everything is all because they add stuff on, clearly, because they had to.
Yeah.
You can't really think about it too much, as we said.
I'm going to say it was 70s, and I think that's post Men of Letters, so it's fine.
Okay, fair enough. So Sam then asks, what happened? And Bobby says it was Omaha, it was my fault, and he never let it go. And then Dean's just like, well, he should have.
You don't even know what it was, Dean.
Okay, Dean.
Like, you don't even know.
And I'm just like, okay, like, Dean can't let anything go.
No.
So he has no right to say this.
I love his speech. And you're like, well, that's not true.
None of it's true. None of it. Yeah. Because Bobby does says, well, you don't know what I did, Dean. He says,
Doesn't matter.
What do you mean it doesn't?
I mean, at the end of the day, you two are family. Life's short. Now, ours are shorter than most.
literally, you were going to kill your grandfather at the beginning of this episode. Literally, you're going to do that.
It's so funny because I was watching this like, this isn't true. This isn't true. You blame Sam for lots of things. Sam blames you for lots of things.
Yeah. Yeah, this self-reflection doesn't work.
Yeah.
This holier than thou stuff. Anyway, something's going to get us eventually. And when my guts get ripped out, well, that's not going to happen. Which is actually has already happened.
That's what I was thinking. That's
actually already
happened. That's the only way he's really remembers dying, so it's all
that's
good.
true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just so you two know, we're good. Blanket apology for all the crap that anybody's done, all the way around.
He's saying this for Sam's benefit and no one else's, because we know Sam feels bad about whatever he did in that year and thinks that he's probably beyond forgiveness because Sam has a bit of a martyr complex.
True.
So Dean's like, no, it's fine, it's all good. As long as I'm dying, I'll forgive you.
That's true. That's so true. It's like, on my deathbed, I'll forgive you. But before
then,
no.
you're on the hook.
Word choice.
Yeah.
Oh,
no. Oh.
I was thinking about his death in 1520 because I was just like, what does he... I'm not going to go back and watch it at this point, but I'm pretty sure he does basically say the same sort of sentiment of I forgive you.
I think so. It just annoys me that he took... This sounds horrendous, what I was about to say. I was like, it kind of annoys me how in the episode how he took so long to die because he has time to do this whole speech, and it would have been actually way more sad if he just didn't. I think
if he didn't have time. Yeah, I do think that actually makes it
worse.
It makes it worse.
I think it makes it worse as well.
Yeah, we
should have had Sam. Dean always makes these grand speeches about you're my brother and I love you and family matters and all of this stuff, and Sam does occasionally, but not very often. So maybe they could have jazzed it up for the finale and have Dean just die, and then Sam's has a whole monologue.
Yeah,
but
could have done it that way.
Yeah. Oh, whatever. I cannot rehash the finale anymore. I'm dreading having to watch it in the years ahead.
I know. It's gonna be, especially now that we've paid. Well, at least for me, now I've paid way more attention to these episodes and how it just doesn't. The more I watch it, the less sense it makes, and it's just So we'll get there when we get there, and we will talk about it then.
Yeah.
I dread to think how long that episode's going to be, by the way.
I think not that long.
I know, it's because we've talked about this for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say at this point.
Just listen to the audio and just bear with us. Maybe we'll have a reboot by then. You never know.
That's very true. That's very true. Especially since they did that weird post that, what did that mean?
What did it mean?
Nothing. What did it mean? Obviously.
Twitter likes.
Anyway. Yeah, pretty much. It's engagement bait.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sam then responds with some of us have pulled a lot of crap, Dean. Which, I mean, refers to both of them, really, but Sam more so the past year. And Dean's like, well, clean slate. And he's like, okay. They then walk off to give Bobby a moment where he pulls out a Johnny Walker Blue bottle and pours out some on the grave and then takes a swig, and then it's the end of the episode.
Yeah. I think that was the whiskey that Rufus asked Dean for when he came to his house. So yeah,
it was the persuading thing that got him to talk about ear prints.
Yeah, ear print. Oh, I forgot about ear prints. Oh, Rufus. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, this episode was a bummer and everybody died, but then we should have known because the episode was called "And Then There Were None."
Right. I'm just grateful that it wasn't Bobby that got killed off in this episode.
Not yet.
But he'll get killed off in the next bottle episode, I'm sure.
Do you not remember? I remember.
No. I don't remember, to be honest.
Oh, I'm not going to tell you then.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you have told me before, but
almost definitely have.
It's fine. Don't retain these things. I don't retain these things. So yeah, I think I got everything out at the beginning of this episode, really, and as we went through, because I don't really have anything extra, other than the fact that the deaths were pointless.
Yeah, it felt like just shock value to me before TV really did stuff like that, you know.
Yeah,
which kind of give them credit for that, I guess, but yeah, I don't know, it's just kind of a bummer, and you wonder what they're working towards. We're 16 episodes in and you're like, what's the plot? What's the plot of this season?
You're right. Yeah, it's all vague.
Yeah.
Now that the A plot is done, which is get Sam's soul back.
Yeah.
But the B plot was never really, I don't know, flourishing on screen in any way.
Yeah.
So we're just floundering now to try and put it together, it feels like.
It does happen. I am feeling optimistic about the next few episodes. I am. And this one was fine. There was nothing particularly wrong with this episode. Like I said, it's quite memorable because, everybody dies.
Right.
The worm thing is kind of interesting, but it's basically just ectoplasm in a worm form. It's not anything groundbreakingly new. And then I think we do maybe get something about that another time, but I can't remember. With the worm.
I feel like this was an experiment, right? I feel like maybe the next iteration there's something different with it.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But I could be making that up. I don't know.
I don't know. But yeah, I guess it's just kind of showing how powerful Eve is, that you can create brand new monsters that essentially take out half a team, because there was 6 of them to start with and 3 of them died.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, it's a ramping up. We're trying to get to the big bad. We're trying to make her scary because she's not scary at the moment, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah. Otherwise, fine.
We needed more of context around Eve. I think that's the problem, right? Because she's still in the same clothes that she was in when she came out of Purgatory, but she's not surrounded by her dragon monsters anymore. So it would have been nice to have known what happened to all those other women that got taken.
Yeah, they're definitely dead.
Did she's they're dead, but how are they dead?
Yeah.
And what makes Eve so scary, apart from like, I don't know, the idea of just like creating a monster out of nothing, to me doesn't incite fear, especially since it was such a lame monster. Like, it visually wasn't scary. Like, its concept wasn't anything. The concept of the monster wasn't new.
No, that's it.
Possession is not new.
I think that's it, isn't it?
Just,
like the fact that we've seen this before. Like they referred to its possession like many times this episode as well. And you're like, yeah, we know how possession works.
Yeah. You just got to kill the thing that's possessing you.
Yeah.
Like, that's not scary. But at the same time, like, how... I think instead of trying to create something new, create something old, like something that something that has been extinct for a long time.
Yeah,
and
like a werebear.
Sure. Or just something. I mean, obviously, Supernatural's budget with visual effects is limited, so that's probably why they went with Worm.
Yeah,
because there's not much to animate, but like. It needed to be a scarier monster that she just like created again out of nowhere.
I would have liked to have seen like something that lurks in the dark, because like she goes back to like caveman times, right? So what are people scared of? Well, they're scared of the dark because that's where all the predators are. But what if she created something that like was the dark or something? I don't know. I'm thinking about that library episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah, like some sort of shadow monster that's like, but they also needed something that could be easily killed.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I mean,
it's fine. It's fine. It's a very plotty episode, but it's also felt like a filler episode, despite the fact that all these main characters got killed. I know. Again, I guess that's the point, and they like to hammer this home in Supernatural that anyone can die at any time apart from Sam and Dean.
True. And even if they do get killed off, they'll come back, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I have all I think I want to say on this one. I think you good? You don't say anything else about this?
I think I'm done.
The next episode, I haven't watched in ages. I don't remember it. I don't remember that like how the episode. I remember the episode, but I don't remember like how it plays out. So it'd be interesting to watch. Is My Heart Will Go On? It's the Titanic episode. I think it will be fun. Is time travel involved?
Yeah. Why is time travel so much easier now? Like, what happened to it? Like, almost killing Cass, like in season 4.
Because they have all the weapons of heaven. That's why. So they're all really powerful. And like Cass has been numbing some souls, right?
That's true. Yeah. Fair enough.
But actually, it's Balthazar who does this, so that doesn't actually explain anything. To be fair. I
don't know.
So I'm looking forward to this one. I think this one is quite fun, and we get introduced to a character that makes a couple of appearances as well, like later on, which is interesting.
Cool. Nice. All right. So at the end of this episode, we'd like to thank the Pixel Agora for his amazing logo art. And if you'd like to get it on a tote bag, you can on our Redbubble store. So just go to Redbubble and type in Escape Purgatory podcast and you'll find all of our designs. Yay. And if you want to come talk to us about how underwhelming this episode was, you can on most social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, some other ones too, YouTube, as Escaping Purgatory Podcast or Escaping Podcast on Twitter.
So this week, we went to an empty cannery and shouted, "Con!" And then went home.
Yep. Yeah, we did.
So hopefully next week, we'll find our way out. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.